Yes. Never.
I don't know what God looks like.
So why couldn't you sit in the chair? Why couldn't you sit in the chair?
Because it wasn't down.
So, what happens when it's folded?
You can't sit down on it.
Right. Can't sit in a folding chair unless you open it, right?
Yeah.
A folding chair has 4 legs to support you, but when it's folded, it only has 2 legs. And without those other 2 legs and a seat down, you can't sit in it. But that's how life is. Sometimes there are times when you want to jump ahead, when you want to do something exciting, but you have to take care of things first. When you get older and you start to make decisions, you're not just gonna, a lot of people go off and they make their own decisions on their own without either consulting God or consulting their parents. And no one knows your heart better than God. In Matthew 6:33, it says, "Seek God first, and all these things will be added." That doesn't mean we get everything we want, but God will bring stuff to our life that will benefit us. And God has a plan for our life. He knows how our life is going to go. And so when we make our own decisions and we don't pray and ask God or anybody else what we should do, then we kind of go off of God's plan. And then we fall into trouble. And then we have to ask Him for help. And that's when, if you would have tried to sit in the chair when I let it go, what would happen? What would happen if you tried to sit in the chair while it was unfolded, if I wasn't holding the chair?
Then you won't be able to sit down. You would probably
Right, you would have fell. Because if I wasn't holding the chair and the chair wasn't open and you tried to sit down, it would fall. That's what happens. When we make our own decisions, we don't open the chair. Those 4 legs. You need those 4 legs. It's you and God and, your parents and everything. That's what keeps us grounded. That's what keeps us able to sit down. You have God, maybe your granddad or your grandma, and then you have yourself. And all those things keep you grounded and keep you able to, be sturdy and sit down. If you don't have those things, you don't consult God, and you just go off on your own, sometimes you'll fall because you don't have all 4 of your legs. But when we put God first and we put God first, we keep that grounding. Wait! No, just sit in it. I can't. Yeah. Why can't you?
Because it's not open.
That's how it would be, how we live our life without God, if we don't seek God first. We can't open a chair if it doesn't have 4 legs, but these 4 legs represent God and your family when you go through life and you make decisions and you think about what you're going to do. Even if you were to start a new project, you got to ask your teacher for some advice. Or like a doctor, he can't be a doctor without going to medical school. We have to prepare ourselves for life, and we have to learn to seek God first and ask Him before we move on, or read the Bible and say, is this how a young lady that is Christian should conduct herself? Should I before you go and decide you want to dress a certain way or act a certain way, you even ask your friends, do you think this is cute? But we have to be able to put God first and have this foundation of Him being in the forefront, Him holding you up. And you can't move on in life if you don't have God. And you have to be able to consult Him to make decisions. Because I asked Him, if you would have tried to sit and actually let it go, you would have fell, right? So that's what happens in life when we don't seek God. We kind of fall. If we don't have Him, we don't have that firm grounding, and then He has to pick us back up, obviously. But I think I could fit all this stuff in this mug right here. So I put some animal crackers, put some gummies.
What are you doing? Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
I can fit all this stuff in this mug. Let's put in some animal crackers. We're not going to eat these. Put some gummies.
Won't fit in there.
How about some graham crackers?
Graham crackers. Noah. When they got Noah, it was up. Oh, yeah.
It doesn't fit. What happened?
It's too big. And
Too big.
long.
Here, let's try again.
Do you know I love
How about now?
good?
Now we got everything in, right?
Yeah.
It's because we put the biggest thing in first. So, if you put God first, everything else will fall into place. If we put the biggest things in first and the littlest things in last, then it will fit. So, if we put God in our life first and, materialistic things like video games and stuff that we like, but, is not as important, we put that in, everything else will fit in. The things that you want to do, the things that you need, put the things that you need in first, like God and your family. If we put God first in our life, everything else that we care about or we want in life will be able to fit in after, but we just have to put Him first. So now we're talking about a story about a doll maker, and this is a book. I might get the book for you guys to read later, but it's about a doll maker. His name is Saj, and he had lived in a town called Thrym. Yes? No.
I don't know what God looks like.
No one knows what he looks like. What do you think he looks like?
He has a white shirt and he has cool hair.
Okay. See, the thing about God is that He's everywhere and He can be all things to anybody. So I believe that God looks like what you think He looks like. So maybe God looks different to me because that's what I want Him to look like. So God looks like whatever makes you feel comfortable. Like whoever your biggest hero is, God could be a superhero to you. He could be whatever you want Him to look like. I think if you were ever to see Him, He would come in a way that would be welcoming and make you feel comfortable and happy. So He looks like what you want Him to look like. But so Saj, he was a doll maker, and he was asked by this rich guy who came by and asked him if he wanted to sell his dolls. He wanted to hire him. He was going to pay Saj to make dolls in his and he would have his factory workers make a whole bunch of them so he could sell them all over the world. And so even though Thrym was really happy doing what he loved, making dolls and for the people of his town in his store, even though he had all these friends and everything in Thrym, he decided to go with the guy, and he had to go live where he lived in this place called Shadowland. And when he got there, he realized that it was really different from where he lived. He had there was no like trees, there was no colorfulness. It was all like dark and smog, and the city had like a lot of smoke clouds from the factories, and the building that he had him to work in was a big brown, dusty, dirty building, and nothing just looked like where he used to live. And so Saj began to wonder if he made the right choice, but he didn't say anything, and he went into the building, and the guy gave him an office, and he went into the office, and the guy's like, you draw your designs of the dolls, and I'll have my factory workers make them. And so he's sitting there, he looks at the desk, he has, paper, and he's like, he just can't think of anything to draw. He can't draw anything. He drew a doll, and she didn't have a smile on her face because he didn't have a smile on his face, and he just was uninspired. And he was walking around, and he saw like the workers, and they didn't look very happy either. And he sat there, and he began to say, maybe I should go back to my town. And he said, what's the difference? How come I could draw my dolls there, and how come I was so inspired there? And he said, well, he thought, I was inspired by the colors. I was inspired by, the people around me. I was inspired by the trees and the grass and the flowers and everything. So he began to take the watercolor paint that was supposed to be for him to paint on the paper. He began to paint it on the walls and on his desk. And he began to paint on the walls. And he began to paint like his city. And a young man came in that was one of the workers, and he said, he saw what he was doing, and he said it was beautiful, and he said it reminded him of his passion. He said, I actually really love to cook and bake. And he said, do you want to make dolls? He said, no, none of us do, but we don't really have any other way to make money, and we need money for our families. And so the guy came in, he said, I want to go back to my town. And he said to the guy, I want to go back to my town. I can't really make dolls here. And, I realized that it was all the beautiful things around my town that inspired me. And the guy said, I did notice that it seemed like you lost your gift. And I did notice that you weren't able to make dolls like you were in your town. He said, so you can go back to your town and you can make dolls, and I'll still sell them, and I'll still have my people produce them. And he said, well, I wonder what I could do for the people. They don't really want to make dolls. He said, what if I could bring them down to my town with me? And the guy said, that's fine. So Saj went back to the Kingdom of Throne, and he took all the workers that were in the factory that looked sad, that didn't want to make dolls. He took them back, and they all came, they moved, and they lived in the town Throne, and they were happy. And once they got there, they were inspired to do what they loved. And the guy who loved baking, he opened his own bakery, and there was a guy who loved music, so he started a choir, and there was one who had like an art studio, and they were all happy, and they all made friends, and Saj be able to make his dolls, and he still was able to sell them, and then he got the guy to sell them all over the world, and he was still able to make them in his little shop in Thrim. So Saj, that night, he prayed to God, and he apologized for not seeking him first, and he apologized, that he realized that he shouldn't have gone and went to this place without seeking God. But the good news is that even though he made that decision, he was able to come back, and he was able to make money. So sometimes we make decisions on our own, and we do fall. Sometimes we try to sit in the chair without opening it, and we do fall, but God will pick us back up. And God will pick us back up when we fall. And you see how, even though he made the wrong decision, God turned it into something else, and other people were blessed by it. So